Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Perfect Balance Trodclass, the place where like-minded and conscious-minded individuals are guided towards the full development of their potential through collective reasoning. We have with us Okavango, the Rebel Guru,
Give thanks.
Inge,
Greeted.
Yaga, aka Teacher Ma'at. Yes, sir, I am your truly Ras Dada. I'll go on fire.
Yeah, give thanks.
Everyone great energy,
Wow.
great energy. Well, I like the vibes.
Step on and try, you know?
Yes, I give thanks for life.
Want to remind the viewers to like, share, and subscribe. We are on the road to 1K. We're doing well towards it. We're almost at the halfway mark. And I believe that with a little extra push, a little extra effort on our part, we can achieve that and move this target. Hit the notification bell so whenever we upload a video, you're able to see those videos in the moment we upload it, and you're able to participate by leaving your comments and joining the discussion. It's a great day for me today because we haven't had a balanced views in a moment, and today is the return of the balanced view section, and I'm very happy about that. So without further delay, I want to turn it over to Brother Okavango so he can take us into another interesting time.
Yeah, give thanks as Dada. So again, the balance view section of the program is a section of the program where we discuss current affairs. And today we're gonna discuss a little about current happenings in the UN. We're gonna be specifically talking about the UN Security Council. So the UN Security Council is one of 6 principal organs of the United Nations and is charged with ensuring international peace and security, recommending the admission of new UN members of the General Assembly, and approving any changes to the UN Charter. Its powers, as outlined in the UN Charter, includes establishing peacekeeping operations, enacting international sanctions, and authorizing military action. The UNSC is the only UN body with the authority to issue resolutions that are binding on member states. So we're going to talk about the UNSC a little bit, because we see where a couple of nations are calling for the reform of the UN Security Council. So one of the reform is for Africa to have permanent membership, and another one is for Africa to have permanent membership and with veto power. So it caused a little uproar. I think the United States is backing for Africa to have permanent membership, but not veto power. So we'll discuss what action should be taken, what should Africa push for on the UN Security Council, because as I say, it's a very powerful arm, and I think 70% of what the UN Security Council is dealing with is African problems. I think that's happening in Africa. So we want to eye them, give them view on what they think should be the reform. Yaga, you want to kick it off?
As it is, we've got 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council with veto power. We see from time to time they wield that veto power in their favor or their allies to veto initiatives that they are not in favor with. And a lot of times we've seen a lot of bias. And if we go back to Iraq war, where, they all of that little bottle of fire to say that, yeah, they've got the WMD and they've moved in, even though there was a public outcry to say, listen, we don't have the appetite for this, we don't need this. But nonetheless, they've gone ahead, and even come down to today, we've seen some active war that is flaring up and is going on. And it's a body that is supposed to be in favor of peace, but these war are out of control, and it seems like there is no end to these wars in Ukraine and Palestine. With Africa as a continent, I think it is very important and necessary not only to be a member, also a member with veto powers that can veto and wield that power just like anyone else within the international framework, because a lot of time we've seen bias in the international framework where it's one rule for us and it is another rule for us. So no doubt there needs to be reform and our members need to be added to the framework like India, who is a rising power economically also.
Give thanks, Yaga. So, the United Nations Security Council veto power is the power of 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, and those 5 members are China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, and the United States. So the veto power is to veto any decision other than a procedural decision. So they can any decision that is made by the members can be vetoed. So and vetoed means block. So they can block any resolution. Yeah, man. So Dada, your take on the reform.
I believe the reform, give thanks, my lord. I believe the reform is necessary. As Yaga was indicated earlier, that there are 5 permanent members with veto power. But along with on the Security Council, there are also 10 temporary members who serve 2-year terms, but they don't have veto power. So the difference between the permanent and temporary members, according to what I'm seeing, is one, the time frame being that they serve 2-year terms and they're not having veto power, right? So for a country to support African members gaining permanent membership without veto power, then I don't see the difference of them outside of just the fact that they're circling 2-year terms, but they're constantly replacing each other after the 2-year term. So they're almost permanent members, but they don't have veto power. So if you make them quote unquote permanent members, but don't give them veto power, then it's almost the same situation they're in as temporary members. So I throw that in the bin. I rubbish that, because if you're gonna make them permanent members, the marked difference is the having veto power. So if you make them permanent members and then you don't give them veto power, then it's redundant because they're already serving in that capacity as temporary members.
They are like a lion with rubber teeth.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Yeah, Bingy, your look at your take on the whole reform and the reform.
Yeah, it's sad that we're really talking about this in this time in history, right? Africa undoubtedly should have already had a seat with veto power at the U, but it shows you all goes on as before.
Multiple seats, brother.
Yeah, multiple seats, yes. And all goes on as before where we see this disparity, right? You see Europeans deciding what Africans do, their future, their outcome, what they do with their resources. So we see the inequalities still continue. Important that they get a seat. Yeah, without veto power, it really don't mean nothing. And why only 2 African countries? Africa is in by 2050 is going to represent a quarter of the world population. So why only 2 seats, right? That too shows you a disparity, right? I don't know how this is really going to benefit Africa if Africa doesn't have the power of veto. And even though the U.S. supports Africa getting a seat, they don't support them getting veto power. And America being America, as influential as America is, I don't think Africa will benefit a whole lot without veto power. even if they get onto the Security Council seat. Veto power must be part of the package for they to have any kind of control over their future, their destiny, what they do with their resources. Without that, then all will be the same. Nothing will really change for Africans, and that's the reality.
Give thanks, Bingy. For me, it make as the other say, it make no sense. It make no sense. You have two permanent seats without veto power. What? So you wanna be permanently there without you can't do nothing.
Without that state.
Just so you're gonna do it for decoration. I don't know who come up with that. With that, I'm thinking, right? Because no, it's the same thing. Because no, you have Africa have 3 seats, right? So you have 15 members now, right? And 10 is the rotational members, and 5 is permanent. Right. So and Africa has 3 of the non-permanent seats right now. So Africa always have a three countries right there. Because I think the 10 is elected every 2 years. That's what I was saying. Right?
Every 2 years,
so
yeah.
I read something. The UN Security Council considers 15 members, which 5 are permanent. Right? These are the great powers. So the victors of World War II are the great powers. They even call it great powers, right? So my next question is, what did I them think the UN Security Council, what the reform should be? Like, what should it look at the end of the reform? Bingy.
I think if we're talking about the United Nations, what it should look like, I think everybody should have a say regionally on the UN Security Council. That's what I think. I think every region on this earth should have a say on the UN because it's the United Nations. Well, let it truly represent the masses that live on the earth, right? Instead of just 5 powers, global powers controlling all the resources, controlling everything. The UN Security Council in the future should be representative of everyone in every region of this earth. That's what we should see. We should see equitable relations. And that wouldn't change how things are going now, And the reason why is that these superpowers, they ain't going to stay superpowers because they're already at a position where they have already reaped the rest of the planet for their gains. So they're going to stay in the positions that they are. But at least you would have some kind of authority that you could determine your future. I think in the future, the Security Council, the United Nations Security Council, it should be inclusive. They need reform, right? And let's not be fooled. These organizations are formed to do one thing: it's to dominate, to steal, to rob, whatever. But it's in no real matter of fact where they really go in for purpose of really helping impoverished nations. We don't really see that. We don't see that. Even when the UN send in their foot soldiers, their security, we hear a lot of stories about what these people do to native peoples as well, right? So they need an entire reform. The UN needs it's their reforms right now are outdated. That's what I should say. It's outdated. Time for reform.
Yes, Yaga. What do you think a reform should look like?
The UN, as it is not fit for a purpose, and it's not a true representation of the 200 nations that exist in the world. Because how is it that someone in the UK or in France gonna know what is happening in Mombasa and Kenya? How are they gonna know what is happening in Pretoria in South Africa? How are they gonna know what is happening down in Ginger Ridge in Jamaica? So they can represent the views of these people in different parts of the world. So you need to have true representation where people can bring the issues that are affecting them to the table and we have an open dialogue, we have an open discussion about the issues that we are facing and the challenges that we are facing and how we can overcome them. You need to hear these people. You cannot represent them because you don't feel their pain, you don't feel their struggle, you don't know what they're going through. So there is no representation in that regards from the UN. So they need to reform it so that we have true representation from all walks of life, all over, from all nations, from indigenous people, from all people.
Give thanks, Yaga. That's the same question. What do you think reform should look like?
Well, what is there? The thing is, right? We in a situation where a lot of times when I'm like to relate to a quote from Jesse Jackson where he said, "We won everything we fought for, but we still don't have what we need." I always like to reflect that quote, right? Because we're talking about a referendum or a reform of the UN Security Council, right? But the Security Council is like the military of the UN. In layman's term, this is how I would explain, because they control basically the action, military action of the UN, right? The Security Council. Now, they are governed by the charter, the UN charter, right? So if we're going to reform the Security Council, but there's no reform in the charter to reflect the things, because ideally the charter speaks of things like equality and security, collective security and stuff like that, right? But we see, as Yaga pointed out, that in history has shown that they're not really dealing with those things. So therefore, I think the reform has to not just be restricted to the Security Council, but it has to be something that we have to deal with on the level of the UN Charter, where we can deal with real policies and resolutions, as they refer to them, that will secure equality, that will secure sovereignty, that will secure collective security for every person that is on planet Earth, every member of the human family. And justice. And if they are not dealing with the reform from that point of view, as Peter Todd said, without equality and justice, there will never be peace. So this United Nations is established to, as it were, maintain peace in the earth, right? But we've seen wars still persist and still continue. The reason why this is happening is because there is no equality, there is no justice. So if the body, i.e. the UN, that is there to ensure equality, ensure justice, right, is not dealing with things with equity and with justice, then they cannot safeguard security and they cannot safeguard and guarantee peace.
Give thanks, Nada. For I say I think the whole UN Security Council should be dissolved and come up with something new, something that represent the current situation, because back in the days, because they are the power after World War II. They do what they feel like, but now some of these countries are even becoming irrelevant in today's day. You have other countries where rise up, you know what I mean? And you have France, I think have something like about 70 million people, something like that. UK, I think have 68 million people. They're talking about a continent with over 1 billion people. And if that billion people have a problem and bring it to the council, a country with 68 million can say no. You know what I mean? How is that? India, the most populous country on earth. You know what I mean? If they have a problem and come to the council, little France can say no, veto power. And the thing is too, they also veto things for their friends. So if they have a friend like a friend of France or a friend of whoever, they veto it. So one of the things on the UN Security Council is a big problem.
Eh?
Yeah, no. When make war of one pan earth and you can't have a war, it's because of the council, because we talk about, I think you gotta mention the war in Palestine, because them and Israel are friends, they will not intervene in it, because Israel is a friend of theirs. And everybody sitting on everybody sitting war is
more than a friend.
Huh?
Israel is more than a friend.
Is more than a friend. So,
Yeah.
like that's how it go. Because if you are more than a friend, them now intervene. Everybody see that war is not. No. Yeah, everybody say that. You look at it as a human being, you see that's wrong.
Mhm.
But, you know what I mean, it's their friend. And them friend that. So them now, you know what I mean?
No,
So,
Peter, that.
For me, going forward, a reform, any sort of a reform should look like no one country can veto something. A veto has to be at least 3 countries have to say, okay, this
Consensus. Consensus.
and as Bingy said, every region should be represented.
Yeah.
Every region. Africa should be represented. South Asia should be represented. You know what I mean? South America, the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, should be represented.
And next
It takes to the test of science based on the biasness, and there is not a true representation.
yeah.
Mhm.
The
Globally.
next thing is that you can eliminate permanent membership. So no nation can have permanent membership on the Security Council. Just like how you have people who are voted in every 2 years, you're voted in, you have a vote and people vote you in. But you can't just sit down and say, oh, we guarantee membership on this. Because once you guarantee membership on this council, you basically have a say as to anything what happening in the whole earth.
But if you have seeing, I would.
If you have a permanent membership, permanent membership shouldn't be to a country, but a region.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So you can say, okay, this region have billions of people, so them get 5 membership to represent the amount of people them have. And this region only have 1 million people, so them get 1 membership. You understand what I say? So it plans out.
But Africa is complex, though. It's very complex, the continent.
There's a drawback with that in the and the drawback is that you're going to lose say, because you have what, over 50 countries in Africa, right? And if you're going to say all these 50 countries only go get 1 vote, you see what I'm saying? So it's a drawback to it. What we have to have is a consolidation of these people.
Consolidation.
What we are dealing with, and all if we have 50 votes, all 50 votes are go for this. So that's what it should.
That's what you need to reform.
Yeah.
And it is this. So with the pan, we are operating under one so bad for
And the next thing, where the European them never look on, when they deal with like Africa and Asia and everywhere else, them not look on the demographic of the country, because you see the issue them in North Africa is not the issues in South Africa,
Right.
The issues in East Africa is not the issues in West Africa, You understand? So all of them states that they have different
Yeah.
cannot
Regional representation.
Yeah, regional representation. East Africa, we have them because for them problems are different from what going on in the West. And South, we have for them because it's different from what going on in the North. And when we go over in a Asian, on the Asian continent, are the same thing. What going on in West Asia, now going on South Asia. Different problems. You understand? What going on in
so I can see that. All India can see that. And these people cannot see that.
them see, man. But
They
guess
know
what?
it.
We're talking
They
about power
know it.
going up. We're talking about power. And 5 countries hold this power, to us. You know what I mean? Because,
Jungle hole.
yeah, it's 5 of
They're
them.
not here.
Remember, say, USA, Africa can have, they might get 2 more membership on the 3 temporary. So Africa got 5. Africa got 5. But no veto. No veto.
They're not going power. They're not going power.
Business about individual.
Yeah, but the reform will never change the power structure. The reform will just be to ensure that you in control of yours, because those 5 countries I just talked about, none of them giving up anything,
They're not.
None of them giving up nothing.
But that's why I think need reform, Bingy.
Yeah.
To represent not them and them friends, but the whole world as on a whole. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, man. Yeah. So,
I really think, man. But
yeah, man. Go on to that.
I say like it's sad, when we still see Bob Marley refer to it as the ism and schisms, where
Yeah.
them still are trying to use these little tactics and things to play minds, play games and the people in minds, bro. You get what I'm saying? Because them know from earth to heaven, say, them not really look for reform this or change nothing what they go on. But for the purpose of appeasement, because that's all it is, just to say we are appeased. Because people, there's a little grumblings. So through these little grumblings, all right, we're going to come up with a way of, we're going to give you this, but while we are giving this, we are take so much more upon the next side. You get what I'm dealing just for the purpose of keeping us quiet. And I think that we, as African people, we have to have a more rounded view of the issues that we are faced with. We have to have that rounded view where we not just what them call tunnel vision. Like we have one blinders and we only view things from one perspective all the time. We have to view things from a 360 perspective. Because these people what we deal with, like the indigenous people would have referred to them as them say them deal with a forked tongue. So them say one thing.
This one and scandalous.
Them say one thing here, and you think that this is what they're saying, and when you really look at it again as something completely different, they must say. But because we were only focusing on that aspect that they want us to focus on, we're not seeing it in a magic. In a magic, them call it sleight of hand. You know, master. So they might do a little magic trick on the people, but because they might use sleight of hand, you just see the thing and you see everything, but that instant when they might actually move, what they might move, when they might take over the control of the resources, when they might take away your deciding power in a certain things. When that happens, you now see that because them cover it up so well with other things to make you completely miss that or overlook that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that as African people, we have to start realize that this is something that is really happening, and we have to start say, yo, no, we can't allow these things to continue, and start paying keen attention to details, bro.
Yeah. Bingy, you feel that they actually gonna reform it in any way or shape?
I don't think we could. What we're talking about right now is really ideally what should happen, right? In reality, we're not going to see Africa getting that type of power, veto power. And the reason why is Africa has all the resources. And the powers that be are not going to give up the resources that supports the rest of the planet to Africans who it belongs to. So they're not going to give you back your thing. Like literally, they're not going to give you back your thing.
And then this,
They take you, but they're not giving
Like they are the best, right? Like they are the best.
Yeah.
You need to come together their resources and take control of the countries,
because it's not so that
in the interest of the people.
it's not.
But the thing is,
coming back to you,
Africans will have to develop military. They'll have to develop weaponry because it's going to be war for their own thing. Meaning the man that is going to walk away from that because he's dependent on that. So Africa in itself would have to develop military structures to fight the powers that be. And right now, they're limited in what they can do. So even though
Well, we've seen small steps being made. We've seen small steps being made in the Sahel region where they found their own alliance to protect their sovereignty and protect their resources. So this is a blueprint that we need to look at. And when that happens, we've seen a shift in a lot of the Francophone countries where they removed the military leaders that were in place because they were scared to get what happened to them as well.
right,
So the public leaders, the people needed these leaders who are not in favor of developing the resources and developing the country for the benefit of the people, for the ordinary people who needs it.
yeah.
What you think? You think it's gonna change?
Rasta, it is my hope that it will change. It's my hope that it will change. But if left as it is, it's not gonna change. Because in physics, them say if a body is continuing in a uniform motion, right? And no external forces act on it, it will continue in that same continuation with no change. You understand? So the only thing that is gonna cause the reform is if there's an external force that's gonna cause that to change or go on a different course. And the only external force that can do that is if the people, the masses, decide to say that we are going to demand this change. But the people are more concentrated on, how am I going to feed my family this week? How am I going to pay my mortgage this month? How am I going to pay the light bill? These are the things that take up the mind of the people. Because if you sit down and talk to the average person and say, yo, what do you think about the reform for the United Nations Security Council? You want to say, boy, I don't have time for that. I have no time for that.
No, I'm gonna say, what you talk about?
One name so. No, I'm not
So,
going to say one name.
yes. What
And
is
then
that?
when they tell them, they won't tell us that them not have no time for that. They might be go out or they might go.
I know, say them whole well-being and I mean, yeah,
Relies upon
right on it, yeah. They affect them life greatly. Yaga, what you think that? What you think of them?
Well, it's a slow moving train. Like it has no engine. They're using the old coal locomotive, coal fire, power. And it's moving really slow. I mean, they've got no intent. That's how shameful they are.
Yeah, man.
That's how generous they are. They've got no intent to see the plight of the people, raise their living standard, and benefit from their resources. They don't think about anyone else but themselves.
why
What's it happening anytime soon?
not at the same time making it seem like they're thinking about other people?
It's an illusion.
It's talking with tongue.
Lip service. That is it, Yaga. That's the word. The lip service. We hope say it change. We hope say we have reform and what give me hope is we have like other powerful countries want reform, because you have countries like we say India on the horizon, we have even Japan on the horizon. We talk about India and Japan. We talk about the top 5 top 5 economic country in the world. You know what I mean? Then the top 5, we talk about Brazil rising up, South Africa rising up. You know what I mean? And we talk about which them also see people are move toward the BRICS. You know what I mean? So it's a thing where they have to say, okay, like something are going over here, because I know nothing for everybody does move and say, oh, we're done with the UN. Our BRICS are deal with. So we can't hold on a veto. We're not even come to know with nothing. You know what I mean? So the veto are going to be, you know what I mean nothing at all.
It's going to be vetoed.
Right. You understand? So
it's going to be vetoed.
I think they must say, they are seeing that there's need for reform now. There's need for it. it's undeniable. And I mean, and with these other countries, different from African countries, pushing for it, I think I mean, we're gonna see it sometime soon. I don't know when it's soon, but sometime we're gonna see it. I mean, so
The world is changing.
yeah, man, the world has changed. The world has changed. And I mean, and the change is needed. It's change for the better, because you have these European, because it's more the European, because even though you have Russia and China in it, they just because you have the other three, they can't do nothing. Anything where Russia and China come up with is vetoed. I mean, so it's like nothing can go on. And because them when like one of them attack another smaller country, you can't stop them because they veto it.
But remember, they also have nuclear arsenal. So that's what makes them powerful. We talk about their sizes, but it's their weaponry that make them powerful,
Yeah, but
Nothing else.
at first, remember say at first that was the reason why they had veto, because those five had nuclear, but now
Nuclear.
a lot more countries have nuclear now.
Yeah, but the nuclear that countries have is in pale in comparison. If you look at India, for example, right? India has nuclear, right?
Yeah,
And that's pale in comparison.
right. And guess what now? That's the other thing that the veto do, because the veto also prevent other countries from getting nuclear.
Yeah.
So they are the only ones that can do mass destruction. They're the only one that can
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Kill.
And remember, think about the psychology too, right? We talk about Russia and China as being like, we look at them like they're so bad, right? If we look historically, America is the only place to drop an atomic weapon,
Yes, man. Not once.
Not
once.
Discriminate without thinking about it,
Yeah, man.
It's fun.
And it's not one time.
Yeah.
And they're best of friends. They're best of friends too.
No, Dada, Yaga, I'm a best of friend that, I like me beat you up, so I have a friend you up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intimidation.
No, it's because after them drop the bomb, like I say, them are best of friend now, but honestly, I really I really invade them and just really take over them. Yeah.
They're afraid. Because that's why I say, even if we examine China and Russia then, and we look at them in a certain way and we think they're so bad, when we look at the action, America is 10 times worse, because they're not even thinking about it,
Yeah.
They will wipe out our whole country.
They have a name for that. I know them by it. When the abuse start loving the abuser. What's the name for that again? Some kind of syndrome, man. They say they abuse. The person who's been abused start loving the abuser. So, but I'm not saying that's the relationship with Japan now with United States. You know what I mean? So they drop bomb on them and now they see like the best of friends.
Fear. I fear.
Yeah, man.
It's fear.
Well, I think that is it. I mean, anybody have anything else to add? All right, that is it for the perfect balance. I'm going to read a quote from the great Marcus. The world today is in debt to us, Africans, for the benefit of civilization. They stole our hearts and our science from Africa. Then why should we be ashamed of ourselves? Marcus Garvey. So this has been another edition of the Balance Views. Give thanks, Bingi. Give thanks, Rasta. Give thanks, Yaga. I am Oko Vango.
Rise up, Africa.
Yes, man. Over to you, Dada.
Yes, I give thanks. Give thanks. Very informative reasoning, very powerful reasoning, very relevant reasoning. People who view this balanced views will actually, give it some thought and really see the importance of stuff like this, and see that even if not on as wide a scale as the United Nations Security Council, but there are things that are happening around us daily that we have to give thought to and give some energy to both protect the rights that we have today and to prevent future loss of rights that we need. So don't just be caught up in this, like Bob Marley said, this rat race where we only focus about, oh, we have to do these things and pay our bills and live and survive. We have to give thought to the things that's affecting us and that will affect the generations to come, and make sure that we can use our veto power, because we also have veto power where we can prevent certain things from happening and utilize those things. Give thanks to the moment, give thanks to the reasoning. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's get this to 1,000 so we can start moving forward with the mission. Give thanks, everyone.